This is the eLearning Podcast, episode number 26.
Everyone looks at it, oh, it's, you're on the expense side. Do I want to, spend, well, we have a new offering, an innovative offering at 6,000, but do I want to spend, traditionally 15 to 20,000 to build an academy? And the answer always would be, from my perspective, this is not an expense, it's an investment.
Welcome to the eLearning Podcast from lmspulse.com. My name is Stephen Laddick, and I'm the director at LMS Pulse. Have you ever wondered if the way that you reward your students works? Do they actually display these rewards in public? And does it actually show evidence for their skills? And is the idea of earning a reward a strong enough motivator for your student to actually get in and dive in and do the work? If you've ever wondered how to use badges and make the most of them in your e-learning, you're in the right place. My guest today is Mike Weiss, founder and director of the Client Engagement Academy. His approach, involving social media, is sure to spark some ideas for your next badge-worthy classroom activity. In this very rewarding conversation, we talk about what is the Client Engagement Academy, their ambitious proposition, and some of the ingredients in their secret recipe to success for coaching businesses built by instructors. Why Mike is bullish on LinkedIn, and some of the specific strategies suited for the professional network. Hint, open source is key here. We also talk about why badges work, why they have worked since prehistoric times, and why they remain a core element of some of our society's longest standing institutions. We also talk about the ingredients of the perfect badge. In short, evidence, motivation, and shareability. And finally, we talk about why Mike thinks badges will be critical in the future of microlearning, among other things, because they will extend the results of your initial investment down the line. Now, of course, we wouldn't have an episode with Mike without a special badge for our listeners as well. So if you want to know how to get this special reward, make sure you stick around until the end of the episode. But before we get started, a quick word from our sponsors.
The eLearning Podcast is sponsored by the eLearning Success Summit. Learn from more than 40 experts how to teach, work, and learn online without being overwhelmed. Get your free ticket to the summit at elearningsuccesssummit.com. And lmspulse.com, your best source for news, information, and resources for e-learning professionals for more than 10 years. Get our free roundup of the week's top news at lmspulse.com.
Hi, Mike. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Amazing. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much. Just for posterity, we're recording this in August of 2020. Where does the COVID pandemic find you today?
Steamboat, Colorado.
See? Now, I didn't even know that. Are you serious? That's fantastic, right? Because I'm sitting I'm sitting on the other side of the state. Okay, but right on. Colorado rules.
Yeah, I think the last time we were connected, you were in Thailand?
Yeah. I was in Bangkok, and I think you were in the city, weren't you?
I was in New York City, yeah.
So I love it. Right on. So, all right, digital adaptation. Fantastic. Right on. You are, you run a company called Client Engagement Academy. You were a speaker on the eLearning Success Summit. I loved, you went through a whole series of how do you create engagement in your classes, how do you use badges. Like, you gave us some really fantastic, focused detail on how do you up your game when you're putting content out there as a content creator in this space. Tell me about Client Engagement Academy for anybody who hasn't heard of you. What is it you do? Give us the background on it.
Yes. Client Engagement Academy is one of the global leaders in online education. So we help thought leaders, experts, speakers, corporate consultants, authors, TED talkers, bring their magic to the world. And the key to what we do is we're focused on learner or student outcomes. That's what we do. And we design everything from backwards design when I started the company almost 5 years ago to make that happen. Our big audacious goal is to help 100 million learners around the world get the outcome they deserve, desire, and many times pay for. So that's our core, what we do. Inside of that, we have a great WordPress-based platform that we build bespoke for people. We are online course writers. We have a curriculum design department with a woman with a master's and PhD that will take a book or take old content, and we can write curriculum both directly on the platform. So people that are in that coaching side of the business can coach the curriculum. They can build their entire coaching business on the platform and have internal, external coaches and consultants be very effective. We built our own digital badge software. And that was a major undertaking because from day one, we were using as a consultant in a company called Credly, which was one of the early adopters of digital badges. I don't know what happened with that company, but they have VC backed and they're kind of sunsetting a lot of stuff. So we ended up interviewing and actually signing a few contracts with other third-party digital badge companies, enterprise companies, and they just missed the boat when it comes to what really digital badges do. And there's a big, I would say, discrepancy between what people consider an enterprise solution and what our market needs, which is small to mid-sized businesses from hundreds of thousands to, to 7 or 8 or even 9 figures. So we had to build it ourselves. And it's awesome. It absolutely closes the loop on what a digital badge does. I want to share a few minutes about digital badges. I also have something else exciting to share with you because most people have no clue, which is kind of shocking, about what the digital badge does, the history of the digital badge, and why it's crucial to have a digital badge associated with your coursework. Is that okay?
Yeah, it sounds great. I wanted to just kick it off there. So many of our listeners are, they're going to be familiar with, inside an LMS, you're going to be able to earn a badge, or if you go through a course, you can earn a badge, or even, you use your smartphone, that's how you level up stuff. I mean, even if you use like Duolingo or whatever, right, you'll earn badges. Why are badges important? I mean, they seem sort of ubiquitous at this stage, but if I'm a content creator, if I'm somebody who's an expert who's putting my stuff out there, why are badges essential, and how do they work?
Well, yeah, great question. Badges are essential because since the beginning of time, badges have always worked. So when you were, let me just close down this thing that's beeping. When you were a caveman and you went out and had to go hunting, if you were lucky enough to get the big elephant versus a small elephant, you got 4 stripes and the other person got 2. And so throughout time,
I just want to say, no one has ever thrown the caveman example on the table. That's fantastic. You need to keep that one.
Yeah. And then of course, throughout time, the military has really been a proponent of badging, and then, Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. So most recently, people know badging like Microsoft in the 90s. You could get certified as a Microsoft vendor, and you would get a badge.
Absolutely.
But that, you were a certified
Microsoft certified developer. Absolutely, I got it.
Yeah, exactly. So that was an image, and so an image was all that we had, but it still was effective because it reframes the learner's perspective coming in, because they have an eye on a target and they want to achieve that end goal to get the badge or the diploma. So you either have one of these attached to the end of your curriculum, or you don't. If you don't, like the vast majority of people, then you have no beginning and no end. You're a book, essentially, and the vast majority of books aren't even opened. So neither will your course will not be finished. So the first step is to, if you don't have the capability to use open source digital badges, give them an image. That was the first iteration. In, I guess, about 6 or 7 years ago, Mozilla, who created Firefox, recognized a deficiency in online education globally, and that was that thought leaders, educators could not reward learners for achieving a milestone. It wasn't happening because image is duplicatable, and scrapable, and fraudable, so they don't carry much weight because they're not encrypted. So they came up with open source technology to allow us to do that. And so when you attain a milestone, it doesn't have to be just finishing a course. It can be for skills-based achievements, which is the next place we're heading. You can issue this badge, and it's encrypted. And really what it is, there's two really powerful components. There's a powerful component for the learner, because now the investment they made in themselves, or if they were at a corporation, the corporation can invest in their employees. But when the employees hit that milestone, they get possession of that achievement. So it's an open source, this backpack where you just, you get it, and then you can build a portfolio of your extracurricular studies. So someone has the ability to, say they were into socially conscious business, and they're working at a company that was not, but they said, you know, the next move for me is, they could find, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 different courses that were using digital badges that had covered different aspects of socially conscious business. And every time they took one, they would get the digital badge. And then down the road, if they were looking to switch jobs and had an interview, literally they could sit there and say, I invested in myself. And the person would say, big deal. And they would say, no, pull up my LinkedIn. And they would come around the other side of the table and they would say, see these 5 courses. And then that person would say, big deal. And they would say, no, click them.
Okay.
And when you click them,
I wanted you to go right there, because
yeah,
take me into LinkedIn, right? Because, okay, we all know that this is the universal sort of global platform for professional networking. If I go out and get an open source badge from XYZ company, as long as it's certified, like is that certification process then held in such a way where I put it on my LinkedIn and then it's like, tell me, how do I know that that's valid? Like, how do I not, like,
right. So it's not, the LinkedIn is just it's the distribution. So like any of the social media platforms, or on your email signature or your blog or anywhere you can put HTML, it's the distribution, say, pipeline back. When someone sees it, they click it, then instantaneously they end up back at the educator's site to an encrypted page that says this person completed this course on this date. And then typically it says congratulations from the professor or the business owner, and then it has one paragraph that says the beef of what they went through.
Yeah, what'd you
10
learn?
lessons, 6 hours, final exams, quizzes, and a hand-guided essay for a final approval. And then if you're smart and you know what you're doing and working with these educators, then there's a skills-based paragraph that then empowers anyone that's looking to verify if they did this and what they do. It will then talk about the new skills that they've acquired because they've gone through this process. And that's awesome.
So, you know, we know here as well, we've talked about it on the eLearning Success Summit, and it's only continued to unfold, you know, as this year has. Higher education is kind of having something of an existential crisis right now, right? You go and you get your degree at university, and one of the reasons why universities have such panache is because they issue you that certificate, the diploma, the degree, right? Are digital badges becoming a force in that way of, at least in the microlearning world, where it's like, hey, look, I can cobble some of these together, and it you know, this becomes sort of a completed degree that I put together myself? Does it have that weight, that kind of legitimacy, or
you know, it's like the conversation, should you vaccine or you shouldn't? There's polar opposites. Are you a Democrat or you are a Republican? Right. So digital badges are here to stay. It's the future of online education, but all of the institutions basically say they mean nothing because there's no weight behind the issuer. Mm-hmm. So the argument is, okay, the only thing that means anything from a Harvard education is the fact that it says Harvard, but it doesn't verify that to me, that person got into Harvard, which is great. Now we know there's scandals to get into.
Sure. I mean, I can get into Harvard too. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So in my mind, the way that this should be looked at from the person that's going to invest in themselves is, how does it, like anything else, best position you to do what you want to do with your future? Mm. And knowing that, if you're going to say, all right, I'm going to make the investment myself and I'm going to accumulate these digital badges, then it's your responsibility to have an intelligent conversation with whatever you're going to do with them, to explain this is the course, this is the work, this is the skill sets. And so it's encrypted, it's verified, and you can go check it out. And this is a new movement that's saying, all right, well, it's all about skills-based training. You know, like I have a term that I put together, we called return on education, like return on investment, because my background's Wall Street, so everything to me is ROI of a return on education for universities. It's getting stupid, right? Because you're going to spend $250,000 on a college education. I'm probably better off, my son's 2.5, taking $250,000, funding him $25,000 for 10 startups and working with him over 2, 3, or 4 years and letting him learn every aspect of business. You know?
Hey, you're preaching to the choir here, man. I got 3 and they're all, you know.
So
exactly
we're teetering on the return on education part of it. So the digital badge for the first time allows online educators and online students to actually participate on the return on education, because now you have something you can take someplace to show them what you did. Now, from an educator standpoint, it's very powerful because you can actually, a lot of work we do is with trainers. So people become certified under a thought leader's methodology, and then they have 10 or 20 or 50 people certified. For instance, a company called Profit First is our client, and they've got a global certification program that we can deconstruct it and rebuild for them globally. And those certifications are for professionals, accountants, bookkeepers, financial advisors, brokers that are already licensed to work with people's money. They're getting certified in Profit First. And those certifications with the digital badges are annual. So it's 2020, the badge says 2020, and then 2021, 2022, because they want them to keep investing in themselves, to learning new methods and strategies and tactics when it comes to people's money. So there's a lot that you can do with the badges. I mean, we could talk about the badges for,
I got one more question. Yeah, one more question about the badges, because I know I want to pivot to hear how you're innovating here in COVID. Do people come to Client Engagement Academy and you set a badge up for them? Is this something I can do on my own if I'm a creator? Do I go to Teachable and that happens automatically? Like, how do I get this done? If I'm listening to this show right now, and I've already either thinking about creating a course or I got a course out there, how do I make this happen? Like, what are my immediate next steps?
So you have to figure out the platform that you're on. Are they even have the capability to use open source digital badges? Some let you issue badges, and that's better than nothing, but you want to be in the open source digital badge. That's where all the innovation is taking place. For instance, now in the metadata, when someone accumulates a badge, you can actually put the actual skills. So when they go actually to claim their badge, that can be queried against a database in the United States of all open jobs with those particular skills. So there's so much that is happening, that's going to continue to happen down the road. So you really want to be in the open source digital badge. And it depends on your platform. What we did is innovate and create an offering that doesn't exist, that goes back to return on investment. So when people look at, should I go to Thinkific or Coursera and throw up a course, or should they invest in a platform like ours where we're building a WordPress-based platform? It's your own academy. Everyone looks at, it's, you're on the expense side. Do I want to, spend, well, we have a new offering, an innovative offering at $6,000, but do I want to spend, traditionally $15,000 or $20,000 to build an academy? And the answer always would be, from my perspective, this is not an expense, it's an investment, because we get 40 to 80% completion rates. The world gets 3 to 12%. All the money made in the business is on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 10th, 20th course purchase, where it's 95% profit margins. On the first acquisition, it's 5 or 10% if you're lucky. So you have no business model.
I want to pause right there. I want to emphasize that point, because so many people, I've talked with hundreds of them right now, as well, is just to emphasize that it's when you build something like this, like when we built the summit, or when you build, like, just, if you want to be a coach and you're going to build out your library that people are going to come invest in, you're going to put a chunk of time, effort, and money on the table. but you're building it for down the line, right? Because that's where the juice is. That's where you, like you just said, 95, 99% margins only happen in course number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And I just want to emphasize that because so many people miss that. They want to build something, they put it out there and like, oh, this should work, and why am I not? But you got to be in it for the long game.
Because of the exact conversation you're saying, but the only way to get the second, third, fourth, and 10th sale is by creating an outcome on the first. And the only way to create an outcome on the first is standing in the place that you entire reverse engineer everything so the learner has the best chance of being engaged, learning, comprehending, and acquiring a new skill. No one needs more information. No one needs another Zoom meeting. They need the right information structured in the right way, and it's really all about the application of information that matters. And that's what our platform does. It's learn and do, which is in its most simplistic form. That's all we're trying to accomplish. So the digital badge step that we took is, if we said, oh, what's the advantage for the learner to get the badge, because then it memorializes their success and they can utilize that and leverage it down the road. That's their perspective. From the educator's perspective, you're reframing the mindset to get completion. Super important if you really care about your students, which you should. But even more important than that, from an educator's perspective, it creates what I call a viral social loop. So imagine your best students sharing your digital badge all over the world. So we built the certification program and all 10 certifications for digital marketer, one of the largest now educators globally of digital marketing. So they didn't even know what digital badges were. But we have 100% adoption with all of our customers on digital badges, because if you don't buy in at the end of the day, we don't take you. And what happened with digital marketer is they had such great success with the students completing the coursework and then going to share that they probably have now, I don't know the data, but probably close to 20 million global impressions of their best students sharing their badges all over the world. Now, an impression means that someone in the world saw your badge on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, email signatures, blogs. Those are very expensive to buy. And it's one thing to say, market yourself and try to brand yourself, but there's nothing better in the world than your best students branding you for free. And so that was the thing that I was like, wow, super powerful for an organization. And it rebranded Digital Marketer because they were an information marketer with a good reputation to an educator, and they were just doing B2C. And then because they got a great reputation, they were able to sell B2B. And when you sell B2B, there's a lot more money in B2B.
Oh, yeah.
So the entire trajectory of their company changed because commitment to success for the student and the digital badge did its work. Now, that's from a branding perspective. But what the digital badge also can do is when people are going to see it with the impressions and they click on it and they end up back at the page of their person in their network, it says everything about them. That's where all of the digital badge softwares globally fall completely short, because it stops right there. And that's good because you're getting people, almost to the trough to drink the water. But what we want to do is we want to be able to, as scientists and helping our clients grow, just like you would do from a funnels perspective, is Facebook advertising. There's an impression, there's a click, you're on a landing page, there's a conversion, then someone can get an ebook, then there's digital marketing to a webinar, and there's a show up rate, and did they see the offer? How many did you close? Do you get a client? That's scientific. In order to be good, you're going to measure your data and make incremental improvements. So what we understood is that we're getting all these impressions. People are actually coming to investigate what their compadres did. So we built our own software that then allows people, if they're interested, to click a button, put their email to find out how they can accomplish the same thing, which actually ties and closes the entire loop. And so we're going to be able to track impressions, to how many people landed on the digital badge page, to how many people opted in to learn more, to how many people became clients. And those basically are very juicy clients because it's zero cost of acquisition, 100% profit margin.
You're stumbling into a territory where I know we want to go, but most people who are content creators, most people who want to consider themselves coaches, educators, the idea of sales and marketing already leaves them with a bad taste in their mouth, right? Already makes them feel greasy, et cetera, et cetera. And you and I know, hey, without sales, nothing happens. This is where I wanted to go with the conversation, because I know that you've pivoted into an acquisition technology and a process that we wanted to talk about. Take me there. How is Client Engagement Academy, evolving this in order to, is your new service that about client acquisition, is this an add-on to the badge piece? Is it something totally different, or are they connected in some way? Take me there.
I had a long time to think about, as I was praying that it didn't go deeper into my lungs, how to be a better service to now the entire industry. Anyone that's done any public speaking has basically had it, crushed to zero. So we came up with a second offer, which is what we call a dynamic monthly training program, which is a $6,000 offer, which is the same tech stack as our $15,000 and $20,000 offer. And I thought, oh my gosh, people are going to eat this up, because we're able very quickly within 30 days to build in their own platform or academy to get them into digital training. And it wasn't happening. We were getting some sales, but not like fish jumping over the back of the boat. And as I began to get deeper into these conversations, Stephen, I realized that the vast majority of people that we consider to be thought leaders aren't great digital marketers, and they wouldn't be. And particularly if 90% of your business was live. If you're a TED talker and you did keynote speeches, you got hired by speaking agencies and you did, a couple, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, and you had a great business with very few employees. You did a lot of traveling, maybe too much traveling, but you're not a digital marketer. So then the prospect of, digitizing their content, they can get their hands around, but a vast majority are basically saying the same thing. Well, I don't know if I can get any leads, even to justify a $6,000 investment or a $10,000 or $20,000 investment. And so that's where we came in to a realization that my background is digital marketing. I was one of the finalists for Infusionsoft's Internet Market of the Year in 2012, top 4 of 400 companies in the world. I spoke in front of 1,500 people at their event. That's what I used to do. And when I pivoted 5 years to do this, I promised myself I was only going to stay in my swim lane. So this entry, which we created right now, still does not get me into digital marketing, because, as I mentioned, it's an entire science to be really good at it. But what we've been able to do is take what's worked for us, which is how I normally do it. I never introduce anything that we haven't already done ourselves, which is LinkedIn. And that's basically a long story short, but in September last year, I saw Gary Vaynerchuk live in New York City. And he said, Mike, with the other 500 people, he didn't say Mike, but he said to me,
I was like, we're on the stage? What? Like, hey, Mike.
He said, Mike, if you don't dominate LinkedIn, you're a fool. But it was a one-on-one conversation to me, because the last company I built from 2008 to 2012 was with John Assaraf, who was in The Secret. We started a company that's now, he still has, it's called NeuroGym. It's been around for a decade. But Facebook was easy back then. Facebook was looking for great thought leaders and content, and it would actually invite you to produce the content and then share it with the world in a way that you had free distribution on their platform as they wanted to build up more distribution and eyeballs. And so we ran up his Facebook almost to 1 million people rather quickly. And every time we produced a video, they would show it to 25, 50, 100,000 people. And it was like we were broadcasting to the world on their dime. Now, once they got to critical mass, they just reversed and flipped the entire thing. It's an advertising model. And then they're not genius to figure this out, because the same thing with the television station or the cable industry. You start a station, you get content, you get eyeballs, you can charge for advertising.
And you're seeing it happen with TikTok right now.
Yes.
Right? I mean, TikTok business just came out. It's starting to be a platform that's blowing up. And, sure, you can get on there, you can get 1 million followers overnight, but guess what? You're going to have to start paying. It's going to happen.
Exactly.
Right now.
So what Vaynerchuk said, this is the time for LinkedIn. And I totally got it. So I made a commitment, and it took a long time to really get it dialed in, to figure out the algorithms of how to get the LinkedIn to work for us. And so we've been running this now for since last September. And I'm a nobody, right? So I'm not like a famous anybody. So I had 3,000 people on LinkedIn.
I like it.
I rarely ever logged in. They're mostly friends. And so even today, we have 9,000 people. It's not like I have 50 or 100,000 people, but we have the right people. And what we did is a transition from being a nobody and not even being on the platform to actually teaching. Over most content creators that are putting out information on LinkedIn is because we are sitting in the place of teaching. And we're working with people. We're developing content and curriculum. So we just got in the mode of teaching, which is what Gary Vee talks about. It's about listening to what your target market needs and then content. But it's not me. That's the opposite. Like we just launched the program in the last 2 or 3 weeks with 21 paying customers in beta. One of them, which I won't remember to say their name, is a very good friend of mine that does branding. And all of his other social platforms, it's him in front of Ferraris. And I said, dude, if you do that, you will fail very quickly on LinkedIn, because it's not about that. It's about being of service and providing content. So what we've done is realize that, okay, here's the gap. And all the people we're working with are thought leaders. They're naturally teachers. So we developed a done-for-you program where LinkedIn if you think about LinkedIn as a pizza pie, there's 4 slices to the pie. There's 1 slice of the pie, which is content marketing. That's what we're doing. Through producing great, engaging content, we're actually building our following, and we're getting leads directly from that. And I'll go about how we do that in a second, but that's one piece of the pie. The second piece of the pie is advertising. It's very expensive, not effective. I don't know anyone who's doing it on LinkedIn. The third piece of the pie is your internal engagement. And this is where people, including me, falter, because I'm building and working so hard to go from 3,000 to 4,000, but I'm faulty in engaging the 9,000 people.
Right.
So it's an entire business in itself. It's like your email marketing list. If you're just going to acquire your list and you're not going to give them more value and nurture that list, you've got nothing. Mm-hmm. So that's a piece of the pie that I'm readily admitting that we suck at, that we're going to get better at. And the fourth piece of the pie is outbound, where that's where all the recruiting happens. And it's a very effective also piece of the pie. And we've done some of that as well. So we picked the piece of the pie that we were most natural to be good at, which was content marketing. And so every working day, there's 20 in the month, we post content. And there's a balance, 15 video, 5 text. 20 video is worse. So it's like a bell curve, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then they want you to produce content that's engaging. So that's the big difference, where we work with our thought leaders to say, all right, we just want to teach. And so every day we're teaching. Now, one of the interesting breakthroughs for us was that I call it goal line to goal line, the goal line to goal line strategy. And that is, initially for the first number of months, I was teaching just in basically the 20 or 30 yards of what we do from thought leaders' perspective. We're in education. I was teaching about courses and badges and gamification and point scoring and leaderboards and all the stuff that we do, backward design.
Right.
And then I began to think about, well, my target customer, they've got challenges from goal line to goal line, all the way from eyeballs to how to engage them, to leads, to ebooks, to sales pages, to webinars, to all the stuff. So then I began sharing more in a broader perspective from goal line to goal line. Because in the 20 or 30 yards that I was sharing, I would only attract people that were problem aware of what I was talking about.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Like, we want to be able to engage with our entire spectrum of people and just build value, because at some point, those people, even though they're not target aware of what we do and it's not a need, it will become a need. Because that's the future. Everything's going to digital. So we are working with customers now in this done-for-you process, where they are just focusing on the content and then they give it to us, and then we're logging in and we're doing all the posting. There's a bunch of magic that has to happen. There's a secret hour that you have to do it, and there's you have to. So the first hour of when you post is important. The afternoon, you want to post someone else's content. So there's like 20 things you got to do. But when you do it, LinkedIn rewards you. They reward you. And how does that happen? So it's really crazy, Stephen. And I don't want to put this out there because it just creates an unreal expectation by people's login. I got to log in, and I got to do the content. So that afternoon post, we've had 2 of our clients. One had a total of 482 contacts. It's a PhD. He's an amazing guy. He's got a journal. He's produced 2 books, but he hasn't been a digital guy. 482 contacts. His afternoon post, where we shared someone else's, LinkedIn helped us. We had 66,000 views.
Whoa, nice.
Yeah, the math doesn't work. You got 682. We shared someone else that had 12,000 people. So that almost immediately got him great visibility. Another one of the clients, who also is actually a PhD, an amazing guy who runs the education department at a large university in Chicago in pharma and biotech, who's always worked with kids and helped them overcome obstacles and become leaders as well as the medical stuff. He had 600 and something contacts on LinkedIn. And his post now, it's still running, but it's like 105,000 views.
Wow, fantastic. Great results.
So anyway, I love Gary Vee. A lot of people put him down, blah, blah, blah. To me, he's a guy that works hard, and he's figured it out on every platform. YouTube originally, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest. What's the one that Facebook owns?
Instagram.
Yeah, basically, he had a funny comment that basically you're going to start to see these influencers and the unemployment line now, because Instagram is done. Like they're not letting you be an influencer because now they're going to jam it with advertising. So that's what we launched to really be, to solve the problem of, okay, this is what I know I have to do. This is what it's going to cost. And this is how I can actually intelligently build my network, and then through posting content, offer them, free access to ebooks and checklists, and then bring people in, add more value, and then enroll them in my course.
Super cool. Mike, this has been a massively valuable conversation. I really, really appreciate you coming back on with us. Client Engagement Academy is the company. I want everybody to reach out to you and, sort of check out this new LinkedIn strategy, but let's put
Find me on LinkedIn. That's Mike Weiss on LinkedIn.
Find you on LinkedIn, but I'm going to put a pin in it there. And, I'm going to circle back with you again in another 6 months and just sort of see how this strategy is going and see what else you've innovated with.
Stephen, a pleasure as always. Thanks for doing everything that you're doing for the industry. You're a pioneer and a thought leader and a great guy.
I'll take the compliment. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks again for tuning into today's episode of the eLearning Podcast. If you like what you've learned today in this episode, I encourage you to either follow us or subscribe to us on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. And please do share this episode with 1 or 2 of your colleagues or friends. Also, I just want to remind you that you can level up your online learning game with all of the information that's available at the eLearning Success Summit. You can get your free ticket at elearningsuccesssummit.com. And finally, you can also stay up to date on everything that's important, all the news and the resources for e-learning professionals at lmspulse.com. Get our free newsletter by just going to lmspulse.com today. Thanks again.